Good evening, Canada. From our sets of Voice of Canada of this week, we have got a full team today. My two charming co-hosts, Ghada Hamdani and Richa Sareen, they are both present here to welcome our honored guest, Len Carby, who has got a very, very long bio and a very good experience in his field. And now he's going to be our nominating candidate for Mississauga, Erin Mills, from our platform of Conservative Party of Canada. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm your co-host, Ghada Hamdani. I would like to welcome you warmly. Len, you have an extensive background and it's interesting. So can we start with the financial planning assignment that you undertook?
Yes. Well, first of all, let me start off by saying thank you for having me this evening. It's actually an honor to join you. In terms of my financial services career, I do wealth management for a company called IG Wealth. You probably are familiar with it.
Yeah, it's a well-known company.
A well-known company. And so my focus is on managing high net worth clients, doing their investments, estate planning, tax planning, and all of that. And I have been doing this for 16 years in the industry. So I've developed quite a bit of experience in financial planning.
Definitely.
Yes. Thank you.
And now go ahead.
Mr. Carby, you're a famous name in city of Brampton in routing as a visit in financial planning, as you were just talking about. And now you have decided to step into politics. What was your inspiration behind it?
He's moving up the ladder.
Famous is very kind. I have been involved in community for a little while, so individuals may be aware of some of the work I have done. And I'll talk a little bit more about my experience. But the inspiration behind it is really just getting involved and being at the seat of decision making. For a long time, I've been involved more on an advisory level, sitting on several advisory
boards
and sitting on boards and stuff like that. But I think the time has come.
Definitely.
I'm at a stage in my life where I can afford to move into another,
And it's a very interesting, politics is very interesting here in Canada.
It is.
Especially Brampton and Mississauga.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so although, you mentioned my work in Brampton and folks maybe more, I've actually always been what I consider a resident of Peel. I've lived in Mississauga.
Yeah, the region is the same.
Exactly. So I've lived in Mississauga, and all my working years in financial services has been in Mississauga. Albeit,
But your residence is in Brampton.
Is in Brampton.
Lovely,
Yes.
lovely.
Okay, so what can you tell us about Brampton, your experience in Brampton? You've been living there for 12 years by now?
I became, Brampton resident because of my wife. The heart goes where the heart has to go, right?
Definitely. You have to keep your home minister happy.
Yeah.
Absolutely, right? And so my wife has lived in Brampton for many years. She's been in Brampton since the 70s, like 72. So she has seen a lot of that, and she is just completely in love
She's
with
also a
Brampton.
migrant or born in Canada? Your
Actually
spouse?
born in UK.
Born in
But
UK.
came here as a young child. So
lovely.
all her life has been pretty much here in Canada, and spent a lot of that in Brampton. So she really loves the city. So although we moved there when we just got married, and we moved to Mississauga for a little while, our heart kind of pulled us back to Brampton. But I've always been involved in both cities.
And you are aware of the fact that we call Brampton a rose city of Brampton.
Yes.
Oh, yes. It's a flower city, right?
Flower city, the rose
Flower
city of
city of
Brampton.
Brampton.
And we used to use this phrase during our former mayor of Brampton
Yes.
time.
Yes, and I have worked very closely with leaders in the city over different.
It's a very
administrations
happening
for a long
place.
time.
You
Yes,
know?
it's one of the fastest growing cities in Canada, right?
That's
Len, you let us inform our viewers, as you are a candidate,
Yes.
nomination candidate from Mississauga, Erin Mills, on the platform of our Conservative Party of Canada.
Yeah.
Tell us your planning and strategy, what you are planning to do,
Yes.
because it's a very important riding for the party.
Yes.
And since 2015, we lost that seat from the Conservative, and it's red currently since last 3 terms.
Yes. So at this stage in the process, it's about winning the nomination.
Definitely, that's your first step.
And so really at this point, it's really about engaging with people. It's around letting them know who I am, introducing myself, from a political standpoint, many may know of me from my other community involvement,
Yeah.
whether it's with the Police Service Board or United Way, which we'll talk about a little bit more later on. But it's my initial goal is just to introduce myself, to talk about what's important to us as Canadians at this time,
Mhm.
to talk about the issues which are important to them. And so we've been doing a lot of door knocking. That's part of the strategy.
Nice.
Connecting with people directly on their doorsteps and hearing directly from them what's important to them.
Yes.
And I can tell you the issues that they're talking about is not always the issues that you hear in the media. They will tell you what's important to them. Whether
Definitely.
it's around safety or it's around affordability, and we'll talk a little bit about that as that
We'll
has been
talk
built
because
into
we
my
would
platform.
cover up those issues what we are
Yes.
facing after the COVID.
Yes.
So all
yes,
those issues are still pertaining during 2024 also.
Yes.
So how to overcome, and the people are really stressed, especially the region of Peel is
Yes.
stressed in many fields.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Go ahead.
So, Mr. Carby,
Mhm.
in your bio, you have also talked about that you have participated in, have an active role in 3 sectors,
Mhm.
which is your youth, your environment, and your economy. Could you please elaborate a little bit about your
all the
role,
three.
about a
Yes.
little bit role what you have played?
Like,
Yeah, so I can frame some of what I have done professionally. I would say I participate with individuals making good financial decisions about their wealth, managing their estates, passing down to the next generation. So I've built quite a solid understanding of the economy and how it works, and that also. When we have these conversations with clients, we're really talking about their goals, the things which are important to them. Often, it's not only about their money. It's about what are their goals for their future. And so we figure out how to make money meet those goals. But with the expertise that I've developed, I have a very strong understanding of economic principle, which I think will inform some of the decisions that I would need to make should I be successful as a member of parliament. My work with youth kind of stems out of my time with the United Way. So with the United Way, I chaired one of the advisory committees, and that advisory committee, we led with a study called FACES report. And the FACES report led us to understand some of the challenges that were being faced by Black students, primarily Black boys, within the Peel District School Board. And that was as far back as 2013. That eventually led rise to something called We Rise Together. And if anyone from our Peel District School Board is hearing this, they will know what that We Rise Together is, which is a plan to address some of the challenges that those students were facing. On the initial We Rise Together advisory committee, I was one of the members selected to help lead that because of the work I had done with United Way. So for many years, I've been at the forefront of
it's a
trying
big
to push for
organization. We have
change.
attended also a few events of
Yes,
United
within
Way.
the school board,
Mm.
exactly.
Mm.
So that's kind of my youth involvement. And of course, that has led me to be a board member of the United Way Greater Toronto. So I started out with United Way Peel, and when United Way Peel merged with Toronto and York to become Greater Toronto United Way, I was recruited to become a member of the Board of Governors there.
Governance there also.
I've done a 3-year stint
Lovely.
on that board, and I just 2 weeks ago, I was renewed for another 3 years, so I have some time to go in that role. Thank
Congrats,
you so much.
congrats
Thank
in
you.
advance.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
that's good. Okay, let's go back to politics.
Yes.
So, what's your agenda for the nomination?
Yes. So, if you have kind of seen my flyer, which I've actually shared with residents as I go door knocking, I've highlighted here 5 things, and I know this is not kind of just a political platform. So, but permit me just to talk a little bit about some of these things and why I highlighted those things as being important to me. The first one is around good leadership. I think that it's important for the individuals who are sitting in the seat of responsibility in the House of Commons have a solid understanding of the issues that they will have to make decisions around. I think my experience both in finance, with several boards,
Public relationing,
governance,
government
all of
outreaching,
that, I think are very, very useful. So I think credible leadership is something important that I bring to the table. On the issue of smart money management, I am concerned that the way our tax dollars are being treated now, it's posing a significant challenge for us as Canadians. they're just one scandal after another. And each of those scandals is not just about, somebody doing something wrong or we
But
crap
they
them
are
on the
quite a
wrist.
big
There are
scandals.
financial implications to that.
Implications, yeah.
And the financial implications affect your pocket and mine. And I think that as a conservative government, we will bring a more solid understanding, a responsible way of managing the taxpayer dollars, which is your money and my money. And I think my background in finance will kind of help influence some of that. But I think one of the areas that residents keep bringing up to me is the question more about affordability.
Correct.
Yes.
And it's
That's the number
affordability
one
in
question.
two specific areas. One, around housing and around their day-to-day living,
Yeah.
food.
Yeah.
Interestingly enough.
But Len, these days is overall affordability is not possible in the
Well,
region of Peel.
Yes, and it's a challenge, which is why we need good leadership and good decision making. For example, when I talk to residents and, like the police officer who I met while I was door knocking, and she's telling me she grew up in Erin Mills,
Uh-huh.
but can't afford to live in Erin Mills
Erin
now.
Mills now.
She's like, good job.
Correct. Yes,
right?
yeah, true.
But can't afford to live in the area. And she can only come back to visit her parents. But she
Wow.
has to live 40 minutes away. But she's a Peel police service officer.
Wow.
And can't
Wow.
afford to live in the community that she was raised.
Because it's
Yeah.
expensive.
It's just too expensive. Or when I meet the financial advisor, one actually who does the same thing I do, and he was just house sitting for his parents. And he says, I can't afford to live in this community anymore. I grew up here, but all I can do is now house sit for my parents. That housing issue is a big challenge. And if you think about the things that go into the cost of housing. So of course there is lumber, there's labor, and there's land. Those are three things. But do you know what the biggest cost is, bigger than those three, that's affecting the price of the house you purchase? Taxes and other fees.
Definitely. That
Yeah.
is too high.
Yeah.
I was
Those are.
talking to a developer recently, and I gave him an example. I said, so let's say a house that you're selling for $1 million. How much of that house goes into other things not related to just the cost of building it? And he said, over $350,000 out of that $1 million
Mm-hmm.
is all from taxes and fees.
My
and all
God,
of that.
terrible, terrible.
No wonder we can't afford housing.
It's become
Right?
unaffordable.
It has become
And are
way
you
too
aware the
unaffordable.
government has released the figure that nearly 40% in the
Yeah.
region of Peel are without houses.
Yes.
They
yes.
can't afford houses,
Yeah.
and that is a very, very high ratio. At
Yeah.
the same time, if you see the situation, the food bank has
Mhm.
released
Yes.
has also been about 40%,
Yes.
the demand for food.
Yes.
So it's a very grim situation for us.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the number across Canada is actually almost 1 in 5 Canadians are depending on
Depending.
food bank to help
Food bank.
support their food needs.
Because we are associated with Eden Food Bank,
Yes.
and we often get the updates from them
yes.
that after the second week of each month, we have new faces, new members, new requests. People
Yeah.
cannot afford food in spite of doing 2 jobs.
Yes.
You know, on Dundas and Dixie, almost, close to Dixie, there is kind of a camp. People live in tents. There is a small land, and you'll see like a camp, a real camp. And this is for the first time we're seeing this. It's like we see lots of homeless. We never had that before,
Yes.
right? And
And it's
We
spreading
never
all across
heard
Canada.
For so
it's all
long, we
across-
never
yeah,
heard when we
yeah.
came about 25 years ago,
Yes.
such
Yeah.
stories. But yesterday only, I read a very sad story. A woman works, she has got 2 jobs,
Mhm.
but her housing is a car only.
Mhm.
She
Yeah.
stays in a car.
yeah.
Can you believe
That's not the Canada that we
what
came
we
came
came and what
to
we
enjoy,
had dreamt of?
to
you
come
know?
and help build.
Okay,
right?
let's come back to our original questionnaire. Can you tell our viewers about the demographics of Mississauga, Erin Mills? You must have researched by now.
Oh, absolutely. One of the real things I like about Erin Mills is how diverse it is. But rather than focusing on a specific ethnic or religious groups, right? I'm thrilled that there are people from their Chinese, there's South Asian, there's Black community, there's all of that. There's also people who have different religious beliefs.
Even
whether it's
Filipinos are
Sikh,
there, and lots of
Absolutely.
communities are there.
right? whether it's
Vietnamese are
Muslim or
there.
Middle
Christian,
Eastern.
very, very diverse community. But the one thing that I think we all have in common as Canadians is that we want economic prosperity for all of us.
All of us,
Yes.
definitely.
Irrespective of what we believe or where we come from or what we look like. And so my goal as a representative is not to speak only to one specific demographic, it's to speak to the diversity, to speak to
All
our
diversity,
residents
definitely.
that are in Erin.
That is what Canada is.
That is what Canada is,
Definitely.
right? And I think I'm influenced a little bit by my Jamaican heritage, which we'll
Yeah.
probably talk about a little bit more.
Definitely.
But in
We give
Jamaica, our motto is out of many, one people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I grew up kind of hearing that. And because I know in Jamaica we have people from different backgrounds, but we are one people. And that's what I think the Canadian dream should also be, rather than these silos of differences, but a nice melting pot that works together to build this country that we have all come to love and embrace and now call home.
Absolutely.
Mr. Carby, you have decided to run for federal elections,
Yes.
and that too from a conservative platform, and that too from Mississauga Erin Mills, as we were just talking about. Could you please share, other than ethnicity, what you have noticed yet in what are the major factors or what are the major issues which you are seeing it from
Or
the
people must be telling you when you are knocking the door.
Yes.
Major issues now, which the current MP has not fulfilled.
Yes.
I would like to put that way also.
Sure. So I've already talked about the affordability, which keeps coming up at the door, right? But another area is that of safety. People feel unsafe, and we can see the rise in crime and in a specific area around auto theft. And that is a specific interest
Car
to
thefts
me,
is the highest.
right? Absolutely, because it's not just like in times past where it was, kids stealing a car for a joyride. This is organized crime.
It's a full
So the
syndicate.
theft of the
It's a full
cars,
syndicate.
Yeah, it leads to guns, it leads to drugs, it leads to other things. And so it is a significant issue. And again, the federal government has some responsibility. It's not just a
Definitely.
local issue, because these cars are leaving through the ports,
Ports, yeah.
which are porous.
And
right?
they have been given clearance.
They're not being checked
They're
at
not
all.
sure. Exactly.
They're not
But
being checked
usually
at all.
when they say when the containers leave Canada, they don't check.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is what I heard from media and various people. But now the government is seriously thinking that they should check the containers before boarding them on ships.
Well, it's interesting that they're now seriously thinking about something that we have been talking about. We have had two auto summits in Peel, led by the work of the Peel Police, to raise awareness of this. We need scanners at our ports and
Mhm.
also at the intermodal, and we have led some of that. So I've been involved in some of the conversations here to help create a safer community in Peel, through the work that I've been able to do with our police service,
Mhm.
to address the issue. Because if we allow this to grow out of hand, it becomes also not just the issue of them taking the car from the driveway, it becomes the carjacking. It
Mm.
becomes physical.
It's a
physical
criminal
interaction.
activity.
It becomes, well, even if they can't take the key or do the scanning that they would know, then they start breaking down the doors
Yes.
to get the key. So again, people feel unsafe, even if they don't have a physical interaction with those who are stealing the cars, because once that car is stolen, you know that your privacy has been invaded. You
Invaded.
know you have
Definitely.
experienced loss, and now you're uncertain about driving home. I talked to the guy who does the tires on my car. 3 of his cars were stolen in the last year. And the big problem there is that we have a policy of catch and release. As soon as our
No,
police
no, that
officers
shouldn't be there.
catch those individuals, who
Next
are
day they
involved,
are on bail. They are
Next
out on
day.
bail.
Yeah.
by evening, they're out
My
on
God.
bail. There's one famous story I actually thought was a joke, but it's actually a real story of someone who was released on bail, and before he left the courthouse, in the parking lot of the courthouse, he stole another car.
Oh my God. So they become so habitual.
It's become like that because there is no consequence.
Because the car theft is a candy, sweet as candy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not that there are, I think, a whole lot of people, committing crime in Canada. There's a small group of people who are repeat offenders.
Repeat, yeah.
But on as long as we catch and release, and our poor police
not going
officers
to
can't
work.
keep up. If you can't keep
Plus,
them.
even I heard that the Ministry of Motor Transport
Yes.
are issuing new VIN numbers how they can issue VIN numbers to an old car, existing car. So there is a link in between. Okay, when they are loaded, the paper shows different VIN number.
Service
Yes.
Ontario is fully involved in that, some of the employees there, because there are like, how are they getting information about the drivers? Like, even my son got a ticket, just off the topic, and since we're
Yes.
talking about how the law is here, right?
Mhm.
We got a ticket. My son is just a G1 holder, and somebody has a car named under his name, and it was a red light ticket.
Wow.
So how is it possible?
Yes, we recently had a case again where with the Peel Police where we broke a case where we figured out some individuals who were inside
Yeah.
who were providing some information and were part of it, and we have made arrests
Yeah.
in that area. Again, it takes, lots of man hours to do these investigations to figure out what's going on, and then finally you catch the bad guys, and by the evening they're out again.
They're out again,
That
but
is the problem. So
unfortunately,
it's not a deterrent, right?
Service Ontario is owned by a private group is managing. It's not managed by the government. That is also the main cause. But now they are shifting the Service Ontario to Staples because that is a reputable retail outlet,
Yes.
and I hope they can give some relief.
Yes. Well, we'll see how that works, right? That whatever the process is, I think the issue is that bad people will always find ways to do bad things.
We'll take a
Yes,
short break
right?
and we'll be with you shortly.
Yes.
Yeah, I
Three
know,
times we
that's-
gave signals.
I know.
Three
That's
times.
why I didn't.
We Welcome back after a short break. Your host Asphandiar Wadiwalla, my charming co-host Ghada Hamdani and Richa Sareen. We say hi to all of you from our platform of Voice of Canada, and our guest is Len Carby, the well-known Len Carby.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you. You are very
Pleasure.
kind.
Pleasure.
Mr. Carby, beside these two aspects which we just discussed, have you observed any other issues which you are ready to represent from your writing in terms of federally, which you can handle and plan for?
Well, there are several decisions that are made at the federal level that
Mhm.
impact your wallets.
Yep.
One of the big issues which or the leader has been talking about, which is certainly one of the things that I would lean into, is getting rid of this carbon tax.
Carbon tax,
Right?
yeah, that
The
is a big
carbon
burden.
tax, it affects the price of food because we charge our food moves around the country.
Yeah.
So if you're taxing fuel
yeah.
leads to higher
Higher
prices,
prices
of
food, yeah.
right? And the truth is, the carbon tax has not prevented one hurricane. It hasn't prevented one heat wave. It hasn't done anything for
Anything
environment.
for environment.
What it
yes.
is a cash grab by a federal government,
Yes.
and they want you to feel good about doing it by telling you, oh, you're making a contribution to the environment,
Hmm.
right? But at the end of the day, all that does is feed the, irresponsible spending, right, that we see. So that's one of those things that I know is of concern. So it ties into affordability
Right.
because it's driving the cost of everything up. But that's a major one that I would certainly lean into addressing also. And residents at the doors are talking about it because they're the ones feeling it.
Yes, yeah.
So
Most of the businesses are struggling with that.
struggling with
Yes.
that too.
Most of
And
the
carbon tax is
trucking
like
companies.
people say it's a curse after imposing the Trudeau's,
Yes,
and he's increasing every year.
yes.
A lot of trucking companies have closed because of this.
Yes.
Carbon
Affordability
tax.
factor.
Wow.
Because on each liter also they charge us the carbon
Yeah.
tax.
Yes. And tell you that you should feel good about paying it because somehow you're making a contribution to the environment, which no one can see or quantify, right? But we should feel good about the affordability challenge that we're having by paying for our food.
Right.
And because we can't pay for food, now we're supplementing our food by going to food banks. So I think the government has completely lost its way. And that's part of the motivation, I think, for myself to get involved,
but that
to be
has been
part of
already asked
change
in this
and to lead some of that change and bring back some common sense, as our leader also says, some common sense decisions to our government.
We so definitely need it.
Actually, we have to define this common sense.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
Len, God willing, if you win the nomination of Mississauga Erin Mills,
Yes.
what would be your first priority for planning or final elections?
After winning the nomination?
Yeah, after
Oh,
winning the nomination, what kind of strategy you will be putting into force
Yes.
to win as our MP from the Erin Mills
I'm glad you asked that because this is an example of that kind of outreach that I want to do. Have opportunities like these to talk to our
Talk and
residents,
speak, yeah,
right?
definitely.
To hear from them. I'm not waiting to win the nomination to start doing the work.
Your work is
of
continuing.
knocking
You're
on
already doing
doors
it, but
and
still.
connecting with people. So that will certainly continue. Connecting with people at their doorsteps, having more, some town hall meetings, having discussions with groups of individuals, just to hear from individuals. Too often, political leaders believe that they have all the answers. I think we have to do more listening to our constituents and our residents.
Definitely.
And so I'll be certainly doing a little bit of a listening tour, if you will, to understand more the needs. I do think I've been hearing a lot, but I think not until I get the chance to hear more from residents about what concerns them. So that's part of the strategy around engagement, because from my perspective, I want to have a big tent, if you will, in Erin Mills, where even the disaffected liberal can find a home. Right?
Definitely. Very good. Very good.
Yeah,
It's not just talking to conservatives,
That's
right?
true.
No,
It's
we
talking
talk as
to
Canadians.
Everyone as
Canadians,
Canadians.
We as Canadians, we have to
Yes.
talk. For general
Exactly.
problems, we can't talk or a particular as conservative, or we can talk about the colors. We have to
Yes.
talk about Canada.
Yes,
That's
and I'm concerned about the polarization that I have seen in society as a whole, but also in our politics, right?
That's true.
Where once we pick sides and we can't find opportunities to collaborate and agree and to move forward. I believe that if I'm successful and I'm in the House of Commons, I will work very well with
Definitely.
individuals on the other side of the aisle, because we're there to work for Canadians and to find solutions for Canadians, not liberal, not conservative,
No NDP or Green
for
Party.
Canadians.
Canadians.
Right? And so that will be my focus, to connect with Canadians and to hear and talk to the residents in Erin Mills, right? I worked in Erin Mills for many years, so I'm very familiar. I've sat with many families in Erin Mills talking about their financial planning, because I worked with one of the big banks that was located right in Erin Mills. So many of the residents from that area, probably if they will look back and say, that's where I know him. I actually was at a meeting recently and I hadn't seen a client I had worked with in many years. And he came in and we were talking, and he's like, where do I know you from? And as soon as he started telling me a little bit of his story,
He had
I
done
said,
his financial planning.
Exactly where I know you from.
Come on, go ahead.
Yeah.
Kindness.
Okay, as we all know that, it's obvious that the blue wave is taking place actually all over the country.
Yes.
So do you think you can turn
You again.
again?
I am fairly confident about that, but I'm not going to just ride on that confidence.
Yeah.
I'm going to do the work. It will take work.
Yes.
I'm not going to presume that everyone is ready to make the commitment to vote for the conservative.
For the conservative,
party.
correct. Very true.
It is really about doing the work that's necessary.
We
to
can't take
connect
it
with
for
people.
granted.
So I won't take that for granted, though it is a positive sign, right?
It's a help. It's a helping hand.
Sure.
What we saw in 2011,
yes,
overall majority we won
yes,
by
yes.
Stephen Harper,
Yes.
our Right Honorable Stephen Harper. So I think that wave will return, but the candidate should be ready to face all consequences at the same time.
Yes.
And we have a very strong leader in Pierre Poilievre, who is able to articulate in very simple language to the average Canadian, and take what may seem like a complicated, financial or economic argument and present it in a very simple way. I think that's something we all need to do as representatives of the party, be able to communicate very well our strategy, our plan, what it is that we will do to make a difference in the lives of people. And so that will be definitely.
We are seeing
work
the
that
overall
we have.
situation in North America,
Yes.
that the politics is changing fast.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
You know?
not just North America, right? We saw
I'm
what
talking
happened
about
in
North
England.
America,
We saw
the
what
Canada
happened
and the US.
in- Yes.
The things are going to change fast, and there is an imminent change.
Yes. We're ready for it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We don't panic.
Right.
We plan.
true.
Yes. Mr. Carby, we have already talked about your carbon tax, right? We have already talked about the economy, inflation. What are your thought process in terms of your housing dilemma we are facing, right? The high prices of housing and your taxes, which are going up. Have you thought about how will you be handling these issues when you get nominated?
Absolutely.
So I'm not going to use the word if you get nominated, I'm going to when you get nominated.
Thank you so
There we
much
go.
for that. That's a vote of confidence.
That's
which
a
I
very
received.
definitely.
Absolutely.
It's We are
Thank
here
you.
to give you confidence.
Thank you. Certainly, if you think about prices of housing in the U.S. I mean, 2 hours from here in Buffalo, right? The price of a house is quite different. Doesn't cost them necessarily the price.
But
of
we
the,
match with New York. Mr.
Right.
Carby, you have forgotten.
Right. But the point, yeah. So what is it that's causing all of that? Some of it is red tape, right? We have more land mass in Canada
As
than the
compared to US, yeah.
and they have nearly 10 times the population. So they certainly have a demand need. What we have is a lack of supply. We're not building enough
homes.
And part of what slows that down is red tape and bureaucracy.
My next question is on red tape.
Municipal levels, right? And so I think one of the strategies we should use is to incentivize municipalities who get a lot of federal dollars, right? Incentivize them by tying their federal dollars to the rate at which they are able to approve and build more housing to meet that need. And there are ways we can think about doing that, but we have to get rid of some of that red tape and build more houses to deal with the massive influx of population growth that we're experiencing.
Right.
Good.
Okay. Len, actually, you ran once for the councillor
Yes.
in 2010, and then later on, actually, you were at the region of Peel. You were a member of police service. Actually, you were
Services
promoted.
boards. So-
Yes, yeah, board after years of advocacy by a Black community. So we'd like to know about your role at the police board.
Services board, what it is.
Okay.
Yes, yeah.
So the police service board is a civilian body that provides a governance and oversight of policing.
It's an honorary body. May I
Honorary meaning it's appointments.
appointment,
It's
but
appointments.
honorary. You don't get any payments or anything.
Just a stipend to cover
Stipend or cover the
gas
meeting
to
cost
move.
like a board meeting.
Exactly.
Yeah,
It's
okay,
not,
okay.
It's not remuneration
Relation,
by
correct.
any stretch. But what it is, it's the giving of time to ensure that there's adequate and effective policing. So on the police service board, there are 3 appointees from the province. There is 1 by the regional council,
Mhm.
and then there's also the mayors of the 2 cities,
Cities.
Mississauga and
Not Caledon?
no, Caledon is actually policed by the OPP.
OPP.
And
Oh,
so
I
if you
see.
notice, if you've ever participated in any of the police service board, there's an OPP officer that comes and gives a report to the board around the happenings there, right? But not direct oversight yet from PRP. And so the 2 mayors, and that's why the construction of that board. But that board is responsible for, significant decisions around the budget. We hire the chief and the deputy chiefs. So it's our job to make sure there's proper governance and oversight of policing, because that's an important part of what helps keep our residents safe and create a sense of well-being and community. And policing has changed over the last little while. We are focused more on community safety. Catching bad guys, yes. Solving crime, yes. Those are important. So I don't want by any stretch anyone to think that we're soft on crime. But we're leaning more into policing that's focused more on, safety and well-being.
Well-being of the people.
And therefore, lots of partnerships with other organizations and systems that are part of that community safety and well-being structure.
And break. One more time, break.
Yeah, we are about, no. We are.
There's a red light.
As the time is flying out, so we would like to request Mr. Len Carby to give his final remarks and comments. I wish we could have taken more time and could talk to you on many more aspects, but soon we will be calling you again before the final run for the elections.
Thank you so much. I really enjoy the conversation. They're all saying, funny how time flies when you're having fun, right? Because I didn't realize how quickly the time has gone by. It's been a fun and
we covered quite a bit, but still many things were to be discussed. But the red light gives me a signal that our airtime is over.
Thank you
so give a very strong remark to your constituents and to Canadians.
Yes. So to all the residents in Erin Mills, this is a pivotal time that you have an important decision to make around who is going to lead you in the House of Commons over the next 4 years. A federal election will happen next year, but you have to decide now, around who is going to represent you on the Conservative ticket.
Mhm.
And so I'm asking for your engagement. My appeal and my encouragement to all Canadians, not just the residents of Erin Mills, is to be engaged in the the politics, in the democracy of our country. We are fortunate enough to have benefited from those who have made tremendous sacrifice to give us the opportunity to be in a free country where we have democracy and we have the ability to participate in choosing who our leaders are. Don't let that opportunity pass by. And I want to engage you in that conversation. My website is lencarby.com. You can go check me out there. And of course, reach out to me. My contact details are there. That's lencarby.com. I look forward to engaging with you and potentially winning your support in Erin Mills and ultimately be your representative in the House of Commons for Mississauga, Erin Mills. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Len Carby,
Thank
for
you.
coming in spite of your hectic schedule. We truly appreciate that you took out time for us, for our show, Voice of Canada. We'll soon invite you back in our show. So keep us well informed. What are your activities, what you plan to do, or what you are doing for betterment of Mississauga, Erin Mills, and Canada. With that note, we will be saying good night, goodbye. God bless Canada. God save the King.